An adjunct professor at a private Minnesota college was recently fired for the grave mistake of showing a painting that depicts the Prophet Muhammad. Now, this is an art history class, and we're talking about a lecturer, so this is not a tenured professor. And since she's not a tenured professor, this is what can happen to her. Now, she got fired despite repeatedly, and I really want to emphasize this, warning students beforehand that religious icons would be shown in her class. Now, let's get to the details of what happened and how this all played out. Erica Lopez Prater, an adjunct professor at Hamline University, said she knew many Muslims have deeply held religious beliefs that prohibit depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. So last semester, for a global art history class, she took many precautions before showing a 14th century painting of Islam's founder. Now, what kind of precautions did she take exactly? Well, repeated precautions. First, it stated in the syllabus with warnings that there would be images of holy figures, including the Prophet Muhammad and the Buddha. She also asked students to contact her with any concerns, and she said that not a single one of her students did so. In class, she warned students ahead of time that a painting of Muhammad was going to be displayed, so she was very specific, but that didn't seem to matter. By the way, we're just showing you random stock video of educators, if you're wondering what that was. Now, she also talked for several minutes explaining why she was showing the images and how standards have changed over time, even when it comes to the Muslim faith and even the disagreements within the Muslim faith in regard to depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, after she gave all these warnings, asked the students to reach out to her if they have any issues, and no one did, she decided to show the painting. It is one of the earliest Islamic illustrated histories of the world, called the Compendium of Chronicles, written by Rashad al-Din during the 14th century. Shown regularly, this is another important part to emphasize, shown regularly in art history classes, the painting shows a winged and crowned angel Gabriel pointing at the Prophet Muhammad and delivering to him the first Quranic revelation. Muslims believe that the Quran comprises the words of Allah dictated to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. Well, students ended up complaining about it and she got fired. I'll give you the details in a moment. You don't want to miss them. But Cenk, as a former Muslim, I'm very curious what you think about this story.
Yeah, absolutely absurd, totally indefensible. So what are we doing here? So now we can't show any art or any learnings. I mean, I'm sure this applies to other classes too, that offends religious people. Can we teach evolution in biology? Is that allowed, or is that gonna offend Muslims? Is that gonna offend Christians? Is it gonna offend Jews? I don't know. Okay, are we allowed to teach it? Are we allowed to teach that there actually is no God with an elephant's head and 8 arms or 6 arms or whatever in the real world? Are we allowed to teach that? Or I shouldn't say a God, I should say there is no creature like that. Or is that deeply offensive to Hindus? No, there is a creature like that. Really, show me. I mean, what are we doing here? This is absolutely absurd. So I grew up Muslim, and I'm now atheist, but my entire family is Muslim. My mom is Muslim. If my mom says, hey, Cenk, I don't want to draw the Prophet Muhammad. Well, that's on you, God bless, no problem, right? If she says, I don't want to see a painting of the Prophet Muhammad. Okay, God bless, no problem, right? If she says, now none of you should see a painting of the Prophet Muhammad, I'd be like, wait, what? No, no deal, no deal. That's not a thing. So, and by the way, for the students there, I don't know, man, do you guys live in the real world?
No.
Well, you're about to, right? And I got news for you. Nobody's gonna give a damn about these insanely sensitive predilections that you have. Oh, I must be protected from everything. No, you must not. That's not how it works. There are other religions, there are non-religions, there are other people with different perspectives. Grow up.
Yeah, so look, for me, the biggest concern is the impact that these sensitivities have on the quality of education in the country overall, right? Because we live in a country that is incredibly diverse, diversity of background, whether we're talking about nationality, race, religion. And so knowing that, it's really important to accept the fact that it is wrong for any one group to essentially dictate the educational experience of everyone else, which is why I think the educator here, the adjunct professor, played it exactly right, where she respected the Muslim students in letting them know ahead of time, multiple times, this is what I'm gonna do in my class. I understand that there are some Muslim students who might find this offensive. If you do, please reach out to me and we'll find a solution. But the sensitivities of the Muslim students in class should not dictate what other students get to learn and what they don't get to learn. I think that is wrong. I think that's wrong whether we're talking about conservative parents, going to school board meetings, yelling at teachers and school board members for, having books in the curriculum that they don't like, having, race-based, teachings when they're, crafting their American history curriculum. It's not up to any one group to dictate or control the entire curriculum. That is insane, right? And in this case, if you don't like it, if you're sensitive about it, you should have reached out to the educator. You should have reached out to the lecturer, let her know, I'm not gonna be there for that class because of my faith. I respect that, I'd be fine with that 100%. But again, I can't stand when people wanna force their beliefs on other people. And that's what I see as the biggest problem here. So after that class ended, Aram Wadatala, a business major and president of the university's Muslim Student Association, stuck around to voice her discomfort with being shown the image. Immediately afterward, Dr. Lopez Prater sent an email to her department head, Allison Baker, about this whole encounter, noting that the student, she predicted that the student might complain. Baker responded to the email 4 minutes later. And you know what? The email looked promising. It said, it sounded like you did everything right. I believe in academic freedom, so you have my support. Now, as Dr. Lopez Prater predicted, the student in question here, Wadatala, reached out to administrators. Dr. Lopez Prater, with Ms. Baker's help, wrote an apology explaining that sometimes diversity involves bringing contradicting, uncomfortable, and coexisting truths into the conversation with each other. I disagree with the apology. I think the apology was the only mistake that Dr. Lopez Prater made here. Why are you apologizing? You gave ample warning. What are we doing here? I really don't get it. And by the way, this is really a nonpartisan effort by students, okay? So if you think that I'm picking on a Muslim student too much, no, I'm picking on all students who want to dictate what the curriculum is, including self-identified left-wing students who want to ban certain literary works on a college campus because they want to hold today's standards, like rhetorical standards, against literary works from decades, sometimes centuries ago. Oh, they used words in their writings that I don't like. It's called tough day for you. You can't use today's standards to judge work from decades ago.
Yeah, this is where the extreme left and the extreme right agree. The extreme right says, I want to ban books I don't like that mention the fact that gay people even exist. I want to ban, I don't like them. They offend my religious sensibility. And the extreme left says, I don't like anything that shows a painting of the Prophet Muhammad. It offends my religious sensibility. I want to ban, and I want everybody fired. The right wing says, I want everybody fired, canceled, fire the school board, fire the teachers, fire the librarians. No, the problem is you guys, not the rest of us. 95% of us don't believe that. And if you think, oh yeah, I am the majority. Are you? Yeah, go ask Americans if they think that this professor should be fired. You'll find out you're in a tiny, 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 tiny minority. And by the way, you're also probably a minority within the Muslim faith. So look, as a person who grew up Muslim, let me explain something to you. Muslims are not a monolith, just like Christians are not a monolith. Americans are not a monolith, right? So this is not even in the Quran. This is some teaching that some Muslims believe and a lot of Muslims don't believe. So for example, I gave the example of my mom earlier, but she doesn't believe this. Tons of secular Muslims, modern Muslims, or just Muslims that believe in the Quran and don't believe in different interpretations done later by religious leaders for their own purposes. There's tons of different interpretations. I don't even think that their version is the majority in Muslim belief. In fact, why does this painting exist in the first place? Is it a painting that mocks Prophet Muhammad? No, not at all. It's not like the caricatures. This is actually a Persian masterpiece. And it's Archangel Gabriel, I believe, giving the Quranic text to Muhammad as it is described in the Quran. And why was that acceptable in a Muslim empire back then, like the Persian Empire? Because a lot of Muslims didn't think there was anything wrong with painting the Prophet Muhammad back then. So you don't even represent all Muslims. And the most extreme always pretend like they represent everyone. Yep. No, all Muslims want this banned, and if you don't ban it, then you're offending all Muslims. That's not remotely true, not remotely true. And look at this absurdity that Hamline's president, Fannie S. Miller, wrote. She said that the respect for Muslim students, quote, should have superseded academic freedom. And at a town hall, an invited Muslim speaker compared showing the images to teaching that Hitler was good.
Oh, come on.
Come on. That's not remotely true, okay? No, you're taking what I view to be a fundamentalist, extreme interpretation of Islam and demanding that not only all Muslims follow it, but that all non-Muslims follow it. Insanity. We do not agree. You don't speak for us. And people like this actually ruin it for everyone else, because then people go, oh, I guess the left wing does cancel culture. The left wing's in favor of this. No, the people you most agree with are extreme right wingers.
Listen, if you're gonna spend a ton of money to go to a college and obtain a higher education, okay, you wanna get educated. You don't want to engage in ridiculous sensitivity politics. So if I'm shelling out thousands of dollars to get a degree, and I know that my education is being compromised because the administrators are terrified of students who are overly sensitive and have decided, no, giving me enough warning and giving me an opportunity to make arrangements with the professor is not enough, I'm not interested in that college campus. And I just feel like all of this is making everyone dumber, because again, how many different groups get to dictate what the curriculum is? You have the educators, you have the people who went through the schooling, got the credentials, have the expertise to teach the classes, having to bow their heads to the very students they're tasked with educating. I think that is insane. Now, if there was any indication that this lecturer was actually discriminatory or discriminative toward these students, then I would have completely different commentary. But there is absolutely no evidence that that's the case. And for all the students who get super offended at every little thing, even with the professor or lecturer giving you warning and making arrangements for you, you need to really rethink whether or not you want to get a college education, okay? And you also need to rethink whether you are fit to ever have any kind of conversation where someone doesn't agree with 100% of what you say. In the real world, you're not gonna come across people who are constantly agreeing with you. And if that's what you want, that's what you seek, you're stunting your own mental and emotional growth, in my opinion.
Look, I'll go further. Not only should the professor not have been fired, I think that student should have gotten a very poor grade. And I'll tell you why. Are you hard of hearing? She warned you over and over and over again that she was gonna show you the painting. Apparently you weren't paying attention at all. Then when she shows you the painting, you're like, oh, all of a sudden I'm outraged. Well, were you paying attention to any of the material? It's just absurd. Look, I'm gonna read last quotes here. Dr. Miller is the school's president now, it's a different role. They said to look upon the image of the Prophet Muhammad for many Muslims is against their faith. To which I would say, so what? To many Muslims and Christians, teaching evolution is against their faith. Do we shut down the biology department? What kind of insane standard is it?
And my understanding is that the lecturer here does not wear a headdress, a headscarf, and that is deeply offensive to some Muslims. So should she be fired for refusing to wear a hijab? I mean, how far does this go?
It's against their faith for some Muslims. It's not against all of our faiths. And by the way, I'm an atheist. I'm offended that we're not showing the painting? Why aren't we showing the painting? My education is going to be diminished. I'm not allowed to see certain paintings. I'm not allowed to read certain books, even though they're masterpieces. And by the way, for my own culture, I'm Turkish, but Persians are our cousins and they're Muslim like we are. I'm not allowed to see my own culture because it offends someone else's faith. What are we doing here? Are we having an open conversation? Are we teaching people anything real, or are we just doing stupid dogma that's political correctness? And last part of the Miller quote was, it was important that our Muslim students, as well as other students, feel safe, supported, and respected both in and out of our classrooms. No, I don't think that's important. So if you say physically safe, absolutely. If you say no, all of our students need to be mentally safe, not challenged by any other thoughts that they weren't brainwashed into as children from their particular religion, well, then you're not really running a university. You're running something else, but it's not a place for higher learning. Because in a place for higher learning, you're supposed to be challenged. And the teacher's not supposed to worry about how much they respect you. They're supposed to encourage you and bring out the best in you. And your education is supposed to be more holistic than just teaching the masterpieces, etc. And yes, we should get from every background and not just a white background, not just a Christian background. But by the way, that's what she was trying to do, okay? So, but you are not supposed to be in a bubble where you go to a college and all they do is feed your preconceived notions so that you feel respected and safe. If that's what you think education is, you just literally don't understand what the concept of education is, and you refuse to be educated.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.